Transmitter device activated. Coordinates set for Earth 2.
Hey everyone, Soccer G, welcome back to the Earth 2 podcast, your weekly exploration of the DC Comics multiverse and the legacy of their Golden Age characters through the Silver and Bronze Ages of comics. I'm Peter Watson.
And I'm David Steele. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us for an episode which is a sequel to our 47th episode, which we released back in April 2021.
Hoo-hoo, exciting.
Yeah, so if you haven't listened to that episode, if you've only joined us recently on our journey, as it were, feel free to pause just now and then go and find that episode and listen to it first.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. He's Peter Watson, I'm David Steele, etc. Today, we are reading issue 13 of The Revived Plastic Man, which was published on the 18th of May 1976. Plastic Man had been revived with issue 11 in November of 1975. And if you're a long-term regular listener, you know that Peter and I did a few issues of the earlier run of Plastic Man at DC, which of course followed his appearance in the Dial H for Hero story in House of Mystery issue 160, published back in May 1966. And so we've leapt forward a whole 10 years practically to issue 13, and Peter will now tell us about the cover.
We have the cigar band at the top, as was the norm for this era. Plastic Man, a line of DC superstars, the most action-packed elastic epic ever. If I kill me, will I die? 30 cents, number 13, July, and the production code's 32461. And wrapped round this amazing cigar band is Plastic Man himself, up and over all of the bits and pieces of it, yes.
Do you know what? I hadn't noticed that. Wow, that's kind of creepy.
Then we have the logo Plastic Man, approved by the Comics Code Authority. Now, take a huge drink, listeners. I suggest a Bloody Mary, because there's a giant blood red moon in the background.
Yes, take the biggest drink you've ever had in your life.
We are in a snowscape. Looks like Switzerland to me. There's a chalet, there's lovely trees with snow on them. There's, gasp, not one, but two plastic men on the cover. One of them is punching the other one with a stretched arm, which is causing his head to recoil hugely on a big stretched neck.
Gasp.
Oh gosh, it looks quite painful. There's a lovely impact aura around his chin. And this Plastic Man is saying, "You're dead, Plastic Man. I'm your exact double. Anything you can do, I can do better." And in the corner, we've got a little signature box telling us it's an Ernie Chan cover from 1975.
Yes, how exciting. Two plastic men for the price of one. How is this possible? If you're trying to keep a tally of how many plastic men there have been, which one is this? The 7th? I'm not sure. What is going on? The best way to find out is to read the story.
Mm-hmm.
Begin with a very dynamic and busy splash image, which is a caption at the top that reads,
"Reintroducing a grand old comic book tradition. Plastic Man versus Plastic Man."
And what we see in this large image, we see Plastic Man robbing a safe and filling it with filling it with money. Using his hands, which he's transformed into spades, he's shoveling piles of cash into a big sack. But what's this? Another Plastic Man, in the shape of a unicycle being ridden by Woozy Winks, is coming in behind him. And this new arrival Plastic Man says, "No, not myself. Don't tell me I'm going to have to fight myself. This is one of the oldest, most hackneyed plots in all superhero comics. Only Steve Skeets, author, and Ramona Fredden and Robert Smith, artists, Jerry Conway, editor, would have the audacity to resurrect such a silly, ancient concept as this." And then we spot a circular inset panel showing a blonde-haired young man with dark-framed glasses wearing a short-sleeved red shirt, holding a weird circular device with marks and writing on it in his hand, and he's looking at the audience and he says,
"Suck 'em a G, gang."
And a caption under this box reads,
"Remember Robbie Reed, star of Dial H for Hero? The boy who could change himself into 1,000 superheroes? Well, he's back. And to make matters worse, he plays an important role in this story which we call If I Kill Me, Will I Die?"
And we see, this is brilliant, the letters making up the name of the story are sort of morphing out of some of the spilling dollars that Plastic Man is shoving into the bag. Very, very clever. There is another caption, and a sort of little cloud-shaped caption box in the bottom left-hand corner, and it reads,
"Note, Surfer Steve wishes to acknowledge that he was aided and abetted in the scripting of this minor masterpiece by one Jane Aarons and another Mary Screens. Thanks, people."
Gosh. So yes, Robbie Reed of Dial H for Hero, who last appeared, if you're interested listeners, in issue 173 of House of Mystery, published way back in January 1968. Gosh, and of course, as we say, Peter and I did the episode where Robbie turned into Plastic Man back in April 2021, so this is nice. This one's been a long time coming, hasn't it?
It has been, yes.
So, into the story properly, we begin with a caption for the first panel on page 2.
Just for a laugh, let's start this story far from the maddening crowd and visit a small town south of Amarillo, Texas.
And we see a corner of the Texas map, and there's places called Potter and Vega and Mildorado and Bushland, Randall, Channing, Moore. Is that Oldham?
Oldham?
There's an Oldham in Texas. That's fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Because various sundry members of Take That and the Inspiral Carpets are from Oldham in England, so that's charming. That amuses me. There's a big arrow, of course, pointing at a tiny little dot on the map, and then we get a caption for panel 2.
Here, a certain young woman is about to realise the dream of a lifetime.
Yes, now this is all very interesting. We're obviously inside some sort of wooden barn construction because we can see the roof. It's obviously a small sort of town hall sort of thing. And we can see a very interested crowd watching this young woman who's on stage. I'm going to be gracious and say she's quite well built. She's quite stout, to use a word that doesn't really seem to get used anymore. She has sort of sandy coloured hair, in pigtails. She's wearing a purple dress. She has thick socks and chunky boots. She's being watched by a crowd, some of whom are wearing cowboy-style hats. And she's making... Oh, God. She seems to be making a noise a little bit like... Sorry about that, listeners. There's in a caption for panel 3.
She is about to become a star.
And the girl sort of looks very modest and blushing almost as a man wearing what looks almost like a military-style hat and a brown suit, very pointy nose and pointy chin. Great stuff from Ramona in this issue. Steps onto the stage and he says to the young lady,
"That was fantastic, miss. You win by a landslide."
"Aw, shucks," she says. The man then presents her with a trophy which is in the shape of a pig, and he says,
"As I present you with this token of our esteem and your achievement, Amelia Roost, we hope you'll bring honor to your community at the National Hog Calling Contest."
"I'll do my best, sir," says Amelia, and we see as the camera pulls back that the crowd are cheering and waving their hats and whistling, and there's a giant pig's head on the wall behind Amelia. Very rustic. My cousin Peter lives in Texas. I'll have to ask him if this is accurate.
All my exes live in Texas.
Is that a quote?
It's a song. A country and western song.
Oh, right, I don't know it, sorry. Galveston's in Texas, isn't it?
Mm.
And the reference to Amarillo,
Yes.
the Tony Christie hit, we're spoiled for choices of songs to play out with if this was a different podcast.
We are indeed. Anyway, backstage.
Yes, we see Amelia hugging a large pig. We can see a bucket of water. It's getting tucked into a straw. Amelia hugs it and says, "Oh, piggy, we did it. Now we can go to the Nationals at Bellow Hollow Lodge in the fabulous Catskill Mountains." And then there's another slow dissolve.
Meanwhile, we now take you to the teeming metropolis, or, more specifically, to NBI headquarters, where...
We see Plastic Man and his pal Woozy Winks in his green and black shirt and his big brown hat. And they're in the company of a very statuesque young lady with swept back, sort of ginger hair, and another chap with a really wide jaw, wearing huge dark glasses and a brown mac and a big brown hat. He kind of looks like Plastic Man in a weird way.
Yeah.
They're talking to their bureau chief. We can see as the next couple of panels progress that there's a tall filing cabinet and pictures on the wall and a door labelled secret, which is interesting. And they're all communicating, chatting away. And Plastic Man, with his neck extended towards his chief, is saying, "Bellow Holler Lodge, why are you sending us there?" Woozy says,
"I never even heard of the place."
The chief says, "Precisely, Woozy, and that's exactly why I chose this particular resort. As you know, it's an NBI ruling that you employees receive a paid vacation every year," says the chief, chewing on his pipe. "However, because you are NBI agents, certain security precautions must be observed." And while he's saying all this, we see that Plastic Man has turned his left hand into a bat and is batting a ball back and forth. He's obviously a bit bored. The chief continues, "That's why I picked a lodge that hardly anyone's ever heard of before. None of our enemies will think to look for you there." He hands them a booklet saying, "Here's a brochure of the activities you'll..." Woozy grabs it and says,
"Wow, look at this. A hog calling contest. I didn't even know they had hogs in the Catskills.
And Woozy and Agent Foyle, he's the guy in the hat, and Sunday, that's the girl with the wide eyes and sweat back hair, they kind of flick through it too, looking very, very interested. Agent Foyle says,
And dinner music provided by Max Headset and his mail-order Canadians. Sounds like something from the 1930s.
Now, as an additional security measure, Agent Foyle, you'll go there disguised as a reporter, covering the hog calling contest. Sunday, you'll be Foyle's photographer. And as for you, Mr. Winks, I've already secured you a position as a trombone player for the mail-order Canadians. I have to say that Max Headset and his mail-order Canadians sounds like the sort of band that Peter Watson would listen to.
Got the box set, mates. Got the box set.
I heard that they're playing Oran Moore quite soon. I'll need to speak to John and try and get you a guestie.
It's not the original lineup, though, so but never mind.
Yes, I know. It's always the same with these legacy bands. Did you know that actually can we be bothered with some menswear trivia at this point?
Go for it.
Roughly about 10 years ago or so, Johnny Dean, who was the singer of Menswear, revived the name and was playing gigs and doing shows and stuff with a completely different backing band lineup to who had played in the 90s. And he was quoted at the time as saying, it doesn't matter who's playing as long as you've got the original singer, or words to that effect, which is shocking and a wound to hardcore Menswear fans like myself.
Gasp. Listeners, what do you think of this development?
Go to the official Menswear Instagram page and comment on it and let us know what you've said. Anyway, the chief's giving out all this information and Plaz feels a bit left out. He stretches towards him saying, and what about me? You, Plaz? Why, you're going there as Woozy's trombone. What? Exclaims Plaz. Everyone makes for the exit as the chief says, don't bother to thank me, men. Just go home and start packing. You're scheduled to leave this afternoon. And they all march out looking back at the chief, and we have another slow dissolve.
Meanwhile, back in Texas, a supporting character joins our ever-expanding cast.
Yes, it looks like we're on a farm. Looks like Amelia's got a pig farm. She's speaking to a very severe-looking, dark-haired woman wearing a green suit with a camera around her arm, carrying a briefcase, and she's shaking hands with Amelia and saying,
Miss Roost, I'm Haragoon, and I shall be your chaperone and companion for the next year.
Pleased to meet you, Mrs. Goon.
Not Mrs. Miss.
We have another slow dissolve.
Presently,
we can see a large bus. I guess the word continental is being obscured by the man in brown who seemed to be judging the hog calling competition. Amelia is wearing a big blue hat. She's leaning out the door and waving to the crowd who are waving her off. The man in brown is saying,
Amelia Roost, we wish you well and offer this toast for your success.
Bob Dylan. He's turned into Bob Dylan, listeners. And the crowd all seem to be yelling, Asu, Achui, Adorabduri! For some reason. Thank you, Steve Skeets, etc. As she waves a handkerchief from the door of the bus, Amelia says, Bye now. Y'all watch for me on the local news show.
Several days later...
Yes, Amelia, looking out the window of the bus, she's obviously arriving in the Catskills, can see a sun lounger with an overturned table, how Mary Celeste, and some lovely-looking buildings all covered in deep, thick snow. As Amelia looks out the window and saying, Holly go Molly, we're here. What a wonderful place. Just like a Sonja Henie movie. Peter might have to explain that reference to me, because I don't know what it means.
Later.
Okay. Gives him time to look it up on Wikipedia.
Yep.
There's a quick dissolve.
While nearby,
we see Woozy and Agent Foyle and Sunday marching through the snow. Woozy and Sunday wrapped up for the cold weather, and Plaz, his head poking out of Woozy's trombone case. Woozy is saying,
Yick, don't tell me that's below Hollow Lodge.
Security precautions, my vulcanized foot, says Plaz. I'll bet the chief chose this place because it's the cheapest lodge he could find. And as he opens the door to let them in out of the cold, Agent Foyle says,
Oh yeah, Mr. Man Plastic? Why don't you pull the rest of your gloppy self back into that trombone case before you blow our cover?
Yeah, and we see that Agent Foyle has a press card rammed into the hat band of his chapeau, which is quite interesting. Woozy then says,
Foyle's right, Plaz. Besides, it's time for me to go to talk to Mr. Headset.
Huh, says Plaz as he removes himself back into the trombone case. Inside, we see Agent Foyle bowing in front of Sunday as he says,
Meanwhile, since the hog calling competition isn't until tomorrow, care to join me for dinner, my dear?
Yeah, sure, Agent Foyle, sure. And then we see Woozy in the background walking up to the clerk behind the desk, and a muffled voice comes from inside his trombone case saying, Blast, it sure is stuffy in here.
Okay, let's let a bit of time pass and then rejoin our heroes as...
Yes, it's obviously in the evening, and it's obviously the sort of social space at the resort. There's a band playing, we can see a clarinet and some drums. They're being conducted by a man with an astonishingly large blue bow tie and an astonishingly large nose, an astonishing He-Man style haircut. We can see people sat round at tables enjoying their food. There's a sign on the wall that says, dance on Friday, Jimmy something. We see Agent Foyle and Sunday sat at a table, but in the foreground, playing a red trombone, is our Woozy Winks. And there's a thought bubble coming from this red trombone, as it thinks, this is the most ridiculous twisted situation the chief ever got me into, and he calls this a vacation. Yes, Plaz is the trombone. Now, the conductor of the band, the chap with the hair on the nose and the bow tie, is looking at Woozy and he's thinking,
strange, I can't seem to hear any sounds coming from that new trombone player.
So as we say, Agent Foyle and Sunday sat at the table, quite close to the band, and they're being attended to by a young blonde waiter, very smart white jacket, wearing thick framed glasses, and he says to Agent Foyle and Sunday,
here, let me clear those dirty dishes.
Agent Foyle says,
sure thing, kid.
And then the camera tracks in to this blonde bus boy. We see him carrying a tray with cups and plates and knives and forks and stuff piled high. The camera tracks in closer and closer as the caption reads,
hey, wait a minute. Let's take a closer look at this busboy. Recognize him, reader? Sure you do. He's Robbie Reed, the boy who can become 1,000 superheroes. The only problem is, he's forgotten all about that peculiar little talent. Huh, you may well ask? How the hairy heck did that ever come to pass?
And we get a really close shot of Robbie's eyes behind his glasses, and he's very, very piercing, very wide. He looks almost like he's hypnotised or glazing over or something. Interesting.
Well, one day years ago, as Robbie dialed OREH on his incredible dial, thus transforming himself, he spotted a particularly striking female.
Yes, we see this particular striking female wearing blue shorts with a red bag over her shoulder and a white vest top of yellow and white hoops, kind of vaguely swept back, strawberry blonde hair. Very well built, as we might say over here. And Robbie, changing back into his red shirt and blue jeans, sees her and cries,
hoo-ha!
And the captioning resumes.
Her name was Rachel Evans. Not that it's important to our story. This first stirring of interest in the opposite sex somehow caused a cloud to descend upon Robbie's boyish brain. And instantly Robbie Reed forgot all about such childish machinations as becoming a superhero.
Yes, there's a great, very amusing close-up shot of Robbie with his eyes crossing and his tongue hanging out.
His mind is still in that self-same cloud, even now.
And we're back with Robbie the busboy, scraping a plate of leftovers into a large bin as he thinks to himself,
gee, Rachel Evans. I wonder whatever happened to her. Meantime, in a nearby cabin...
Amelia, still wearing a purple dress, is standing with Miss Goon. Cabin's very well outfitted, if you like. There's a nice picture on the wall of someone skiing on a table with a lamp or a vase on it. It looks very homely. Miss Goon is holding up a dress for Amelia, and she's saying,
how you look will be very important.
If you say so, Miss Goon. But can I still wear my waffle stomper boots? Anyway, I've got to practice. Got to practice real hard. And she exclaims, sweet. And as this beautiful noise echoes round the establishment, we see Robbie Reed, obviously hearing it and reacting as he exclaims,
eh?
And a caption reads,
a female created the cobwebs, and now a female, with a loud and booming voice, clears them away.
We see Robbie with a hand to his temple and a shock of realisation flashing around him as he says,
huh? That shout, it did something to my brain. Starting to remember.
And then we see him running outside through the snow towards some trees as he yells,
Sock-a-ma-gee! The dial! My Dial H dial! Not only do I remember that, I remember where I dropped the corn-sarn thing, just a few minutes from here.
And then we see him on his knees, burrowing into the snow, and he finds the H dial.
Ah, here it is, right where I left it when I first saw Rachel Evans. Gee, I wonder whatever happened to her. The dial's a little battered and rusty, but...
We see Robbie dialing the H dial for the first time in a very long time, as the caption reads,
all Robbie has to do is dial the letters H-E-R-O in order to become...
And there's a flash!
Well, well, this time it's Mighty Moppet.
And Mighty Moppet is basically a small child wearing a very similar costume to Superman, a reddish-orange body stocking with green boots and a green belt with a safety pin on it, above black trunks with a green cape, a green shield on his chest which bears a white M, and he has a sort of exaggerated large childish head, wide blue eyes, lots of bright shining teeth, and Mighty Moppet, of course, first appeared in the Dial H for Hero story in issue 159 of House of Mystery, published in April 1966. Holding his milk bottle in his left hand, Mighty Moppet grins and says, and a caption reads,
But wait, something's wrong. Isn't that an evil glare on the Moppet's pasty face?
A caption reads,
Shortly?
And we see that Mighty Moppet has run into the dining room at the lodge area. We can see some people sat around enjoying their evening meals at the table. We can see that the band are still on stage, and Mighty Moppet runs in and he hurls snowballs at a number of the patrons as he laughs. One man is struck and he cries.
Oof.
A woman is struck and she yells. And we see, poking into the corner of the panel, a certain red trombone, which says, What the? Mighty Moppet hurls another couple of snowballs, one in the direction of our friend Sunday. He laughs again. The snowball collides with a
split,
and Agent Sunday cries, Yelp! We see Plastic Man in his form of the trombone, walking away from the stage, thinking, Good grief, that kid's creating all sort of havoc. Gotta do something. But first, I've gotta slip away, so's nobody realises this trombone is really a superhero in disguise. The next panel, we see that Plaz has returned to his familiar form, and he thinks to himself, There, but now what? How do I fight a kid? He stretches forward. This is a great panel. We see patrons ducking for cover with Agent Foil poking out from underneath a table as Plaz elongates, stretches his arms out towards Mighty Moppet as he thinks, Maybe I can just grab him. And Mighty Moppet reacts, saying,
Huh?
And then he lunges towards Plaz, saying,
Here, make yourself a fruit salad, you goggle-eyed freak.
He slams some sort of foodstuff into Plaz's face as Plaz exclaims, Oomph! In the next panel, we see that Mighty Moppet has legged it out the front door. Plaz turns himself into a hoop or a tyre, bounces after him, thinking, Huh! Rat fruit won't stop this pliable crime-buster. But then he gets to the doorway, looks outside, and there's no sign of Mighty Moppet. There's just a blonde boy with glasses in a white busboy's jacket carrying a tray. Plaz thinks to himself, He's gone. Vanished. Nobody out here but that dumb-looking busboy. It's worth pointing out, listeners, on the next page we have a repeat of that T-shirt for Young America for 76 advertisement featuring the lad from Different Strokes. Top of the next one, see Plaz with his neck stretching through the door frame as he's thinking, well, I'll find him later. Right now I'd better get back inside before Mac's headset notices that one of his trombones is missing.
Meanwhile,
indeed. We see Robbie Reed walking outside, pulling a coat on over his busboy uniform, as he thinks,
Obviously the rusting created an imperfection in my dial. It transforms me into supervillains rather than superheroes. And I couldn't be more pleased.
There's an inset panel of Robbie looking particularly devilish as his thoughts continue.
I never realised how much fun a supervillain can have. If only Rachel Evans could see me now. Gee, I wonder, whatever...
He's walking along through the snow as a caption reads,
at this same moment, a few feet away...
It's none other than Amelia Roost wearing a green jumper and orange shorts and her big comfortable boots, and she's jogging through the snow, panting heavily as she thinks, Gotta keep my body fit and strong so my lungs will be pure. And then with a
Whomp!
In the next panel, she collides with Robbie Reed. Robbie yells,
Suck a gee!
As Amelia says, Hey, watch your mouth, fella.
Instantly, all Robbie's memories of Rachel Evans dissolve as...
Yes, he looks into Amelia's wide eyes and wide mouth and he says,
Hi, baby. Doing anything for the rest of your life?
Well, I do have the hog hauling contest tomorrow, but after that I'm free.
Good. Let's run away together.
Golly, I've always wanted to run away with some handsome young man, get married and open a roadside diner of the Great Texas Turnpike. Could we?
Marriage? Well, I guess it would be the honourable thing to do. But opening a diner, that'll take money.
And Robbie leans into Amelia the next panel saying,
But don't worry, baby. I may not have any money now, but I know how to get some.
And then he laughs in his thoughts evilly. He moves back from Amelia in the next panel saying,
Listen, I'll meet you here tomorrow before the competition and we'll make further plans. Until then...
And a view shifts to looking up at Amelia from behind. And then the embrace, as Robbie reaches around and her pigtails fly as they smooch passionately. Gosh, I'm loosening my tie and my top button, listeners.
Thus, for the moment at least, the young lovers part.
And Robbie walks off through the snow, leaving Amelia leaning against something to keep herself from falling over as she thinks, golly gee, they'll never believe this back in Amarillo. And we are continued on the 5th page following. Lots of DC merchandise-related advertisements. We might put them on the socials at some point. And another full-page advertisement for DC tabloids, which says, note, new price for these back issues. Mm-hmm. They're now $2 each, so bear that in mind if you want to order any. We can see the Sensation tabloid, Wonder Woman tabloid, the Bible, Whiz Comics, Flash Comics, etc. There is a slow dissolve and a caption reads,
the next day.
Yes, we're in the lodge being shared by our 4 NBI agents. Agent Foyle and Sunday seem to be taking their leave. Still see the press ticket rammed into his hat. Woozy and Plaz are playing cards at the table. You can see that Woozy has 4 aces.
Ooh.
Plaz is watching others go. We can't see what his cards are at the moment. But as Foyle and Sunday leave, Plaz is saying, the hard calling scheduled for this afternoon, Foyle, so it's time you got busy, right?
Oh yeah? What about you?
Don't worry, Foyle. The band's providing music for the contest. We'll be there, eventually. Come along, Woozy, says Plaz, and he stretches and leaves the room, throwing his cards onto the table. We see that there's a 2 and a 6 and a 10. I don't know much about cards, but I don't think that's as good as Woozy's aces. Woozy looks disappointed that he's not going to win all this loot, as he says,
Huh? Where are we going, Plaz?
For a walk.
Elsewhere?
And we see Robbie in his lodgings, and his wall is covered in sporting flags and things. We can see one saying Army. Maybe he's a huge BTS fan. There's a flag saying Dartmouth, one saying UCLA, one saying Princeton, one saying Alabama. It's a football with 1962 written on it. I'm not sure the significance. Someone can tell us. And Robbie, with his bow tie undone, has his H-dial in his hand. And as he dials, he thinks,
once I become a supervillain, getting the money I need should be a snap. All I do is dial the proper letters and become...
And there's a flash as he changes into a familiar-looking figure wearing a red and white striped costume, a little crown with lollipops on it. The costume is studded with coloured jewels, as this fellow identifies himself as...
What? King Candy. This guy was a bozo as a superhero, and he's worse as a supervillain.
And of course, King Candy appeared in House of Mystery issue 160, published in May 1966, which was the story where Robbie transformed into Plastic Man. Robbie says,
better dial again.
And there's another flash, and he changes once more into another guy, dressed in blue, with a sort of yellow corkscrew hat, is the best way I can describe it. We can see corkscrews on the tips of his finger and a symbol in his chest, as he identifies himself as...
Ah, the mole. That's much better. Now I'll be able to dig right in.
And the mole was someone that Robbie transformed into in House of Mystery issue 156, published on 18th November 1965. There's a slow dissolve.
Shortly, at the rear of the lodge...
We see Plaz and Woozy marching through the snow. Plaz has his right ear extended as he's saying, listen, Wooz, some sort of drilling sound coming from the ticket office. Someone must be stealing the receipts from the hog calling contest. Come on! We turn the page and Plaz and Woozy are entering through a doorway to see the mole kneeling in front of a large safe, and there are envelopes and such like spilled all over the floor, but the mole is grabbing huge piles of cash. You can see a big hole in the ground behind it. That's obviously how he made his way in. Plaz and Woozy arrive, and Plaz says, hey, what's coming off? First we meet a bratish little punk of a supervillain, and now this bozo. The mole, obviously seeing them arrive, thinks,
Uh-oh, it's that rubber-eyed freak again.
Plaz transforms himself into a large butterfly net. It's the only word I've got for it. Woozy grabs him, rushes forward as Plaz says, no matter what's going on, we can't let him steal that money. The mole produces the hero dial, thinking,
just time enough while they're rushing across the room to do my dial.
And become a more formidable opponent.
And he transforms again with another red flash into a large orange scaled creature with sort of wide flappy feet and no less than 5 tentacle style arms. He wears a black sort of unitard with a yellow star on his chest, and this of course is...
It's the human starfish. Many-tentacled and indeed a formidable foe.
And Robbie dialed into the form of the human starfish in House of Mystery issue 159, published on the 5th of April 1966, the same issue as Mighty Moppet, if you're paying attention. Plaz lunges towards the human starfish in the next panel as he says, stay back, Wooz, you'll only get injured. I'll take him on alone.
Oh, gee, Plaz,
But he's cut off as Plaz's left hand stretches back and covers his mouth. Next panel's a cracker of Plastic Man and the human starfish fighting. We get some great sound effects. There's a
Crump!
and a
Smash!
and a
Thrum!
Plastic Man's right arm is coiled around one of the starfish's tentacles, and his right leg is looped around a couple more of the starfish's tentacles, looking like something off the cover of Plop, to my eyes, actually.
Yes.
It's grotesque. Is that an excuse for a Plop cover gallery? Plazzy's left arm uppercuts the starfish, as the starfish thinks,
Oh, he's got me beaten. But if I can break away just for a minute...
and then one tentacle being free, he strikes Plaz 3 times in rapid succession with a...
Slap, slap, slap.
and the human starfish thinks.
It.
He produces the H dial, dials quickly, thinking,
Come on, dial, don't fail me now.
and there is a flash of blue energy, and he shifts once again into the form of Plastic Man. He thinks,
Sakamichi, I've become him. Yes, now I remember. Once before I became Plastic Man for just a short while.
and there is an asterisk, which takes you to a caption which gives you the facts that I would have given you, that reads,
House of Mystery 160. Read readers. Jerry.
the money that Robbie was trying to steal is still scattered around the floor. We see the open safe, as a newly arrived Robbie version of Plastic Man moves towards our hero, saying,
Ha! I've got you now, good guy. As a version of you without qualms about dirty fighting, I'll defeat you with ease.
and our Plaz thinks, this is crazy, mad, sick. Somehow this character has become me, and he's got my powers. Annoyingly, listeners, we shift to another location.
And as the battle continues, a little lady from the Lone Star State waits longingly for her one true love.
Yes, we see poor Amelia standing shivering in the cold, her arms wrapped around herself. She's waiting for Robbie as she says, gosh, I sure hope what's-his-name shows up soon. Then Miss Goon arrives on the scene, saying,
What are you doing out here, Amelia? You're due on stage any minute.
But I'm supposed to wait here for my true love. We're gonna live happily ever after. Miss Goon puts her hands on Amelia's shoulders, leans in, fiercely saying,
Listen, Amelia, and listen well. I'm going to tell you a story that'll rip your heart out. It's a story of love and duty. The story of a young woman named Haragoon and a low-down good-looker called Smooth Louis Novatoni.
We slip into flashback mode for the next couple of panels. We see a young Haragoon wearing a very 20s style yellow dress, standing on a stage amongst some other people. There's a sign behind that reads ISB, crowd watching, and Haragoon narrates this flashback.
It was the night of the great interstate spelling bee in May of 26. Sweet Haragoon was tied for first place with a guy named Abner Stump, on whom it turned out Smooth Louis had bet a lot of money.
Yes, we see Abner Stump. Indeed, he's standing on stage beside Hara. He's a bespectacled young man wearing a brown suit.
Smooth Louis approached Sweet Hara and told her to throw the spelling bee, or he wouldn't marry her.
Yes, we see poor Hara sat down, and Smooth Louis, he looks very smooth. Oily hair in a centre parting. He looks like he's smoking. He's got a flower in his buttonhole. Don't trust him. He's grasping her hand as we see Abner sat in the background. We return abruptly to the present day as Amelia says, Holly go Molly, whatever did you do?
You notice, I'm not married. No, I had a duty to win that spelling bee, and here I am today, proud, honourable. My bittersweet memories keep me going, and yours will keep you going too. Now come along, you silly girl.
And she grabs Amelia by the wrist, pulling her forward as Amelia looks back over her shoulder, like in that Mike and the Mechanics song. We arrive at the top of the next page as a caption reads,
Simultaneously,
and there's a massive
pow!
sound effect as the two plastic men fight. One plastic man has shaped his left arm into an anvil and is uppercutting the other, who yells, "Ugh!" The plastic man who's been struck falls to the ground. Woozy steps forward, gathering him up, saying,
Plaz, this is you, isn't it, Plaz? Listen, Plaz, you've got to stop fighting this guy. He's you. If you killed you, you'll die too.
"What?" exclaims Plaz. "Don't be absurd, Woozy. He really isn't me. Just a poor imitation. A plastic man. And as such, I know just how to defeat him." And with that, Plaz lunges forward, transforming himself into a spear almost, with a very sharp point at the end. The other Plaz can only watch, and we see the safe behind him and the money scattered around the floor. We cut rapidly to the stage at the hog calling contest, and we see Amelia and Miss Goon standing in the wings watching the compere on stage. Miss Goon says,
Pay attention, Amelia. This next guy is your biggest competitor.
and he's being introduced by the compere, who looks a bit like early 70s Glenn Campbell in a caricatured style. Yellow hair, another large bow tie over a frilly shirt, and he's standing next to a very large young man in a checked suit who has a very gormless expression, crossed eyes, a wide jaw, wide teeth. The compere is saying,
Lazarus Swillhorn from Sedalia, Missouri. Mr. Swillhorn is the grandnephew twice removed of our beloved founder, Jeremiah Swillshoe, here to carry on the family tradition.
We cut back to the battle of the two plastic men. Our Plaz, still in the form of the javelin with the point at the end, is looping himself around the fake Plaz and he's saying, "That's right, phony. Try to grab me. Nope. Missed. Try again." The other Plaz reaching for him with an extended hand. We cut back to the hog calling competition stage. And Lazarus Swillhorn is giving his performance as he coughs and hacks his way through a...
Sweet.
He's doubling up in pain. As Miss Goon and Amelia look on, Miss Goon says,
You're in luck, Amelia. Swillhorn blew it. His lungs are no longer pure. Must be from too much fast living.
and we see Swillhorn make his way off stage, thinking sadly to himself, "Mother will never forgive me." The compere then says,
And now, representing the Lone Star State...
Miss Gooden shoves forward Amelia, saying,
Get out there, kid. You're on.
We cut back to the two plastic men, with the javelin Plaz looping round the Dial H fake. Javelin original Plaz says, "Nope, missed again. You can do better than that." As the compere leads Amelia on stage, saying,
We have that lovely little bluebonnet, Miss Amelia Roost.
and we hear cries from the audience of,
Ah!
and,
Ooh!
and
Yes, sirree!
the caption reads,
Somehow, despite the ache in her heart, Amelia summons her voice, and...
tears falling down her face, the poor soul. She leans her head back and sings. Sweet, sweet, sweet. We see a panel of three judges, a man with a white moustache, and a woman with a centre parting a red dress, and a man with glasses and a very neat moustache, as they all say,
Amazing!
"Such range!
Astonishingly clear tunes.
What power!" We cut back to the two plastic men who are completely looped up and tangled around each other as Amelia's song echoes through the room. And the Robbie plastic man extends an ear and says,
Hey? Huh? That sound.
and our Plaz says, "Well, that ties this caper up rather neatly." The fake Plaz, both of his ears are stretching out at this point as he says,
My ears. What's happened to me?
on our Plaz, we see that he's holding the H-dial, says, "By trying to grab me, he wound his phony self into knots. Even his fingers are knotted, so he can't work this ridiculous dial." We cut back to the stage at the competition. The compere taking an envelope from one of the judges, saying,
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the moment you've been waiting for.
opening the envelope, he declares,
The new national champion hog caller is... Amelia Roost of Amarillo, Texas.
"Look at those teeth. This panel has to go on the socials. My goodness." Amelia delightedly yells, I won!" In the next panel, we see that she's in a cloak. Wrapped around her, she's holding another statue of a pig. The compere is putting a crown on her head as a spotlight shines down and the crowd applauds. As she is crowned, Amelia thinks, "I can hardly believe it. If only he were here."
But he isn't, Amelia. In fact...
No, he sat on the ground, transformed back into Robbie Reed, looking up at Plastic Man and Woozy and saying,
Can't remember a thing since I saw a girl named Rachel Evans 2 years ago.
Plaz says, "Maybe I'm nuts, but I believe you, kid. But just to be safe, I'll keep the dial." There's a slow dissolve.
Yes, there has been a winner.
And we see Amelia on stage, parading around in a lovely purple cloak that she's been wrapped in as the band plays in front of her, including a red trombone, which doesn't seem to be doing much because the man beside the trombonist seems to be looking askew. As the compere is saying,
There she goes, lungs of gold, true-hearted and loud-mouthed.
yes, and then we get a close-up of Amelia.
But what's this we see trickling down the winner's cheek?
It is a single, solitary tear.
What do you think it is, dummy? An ocean liner? This is not, after all, a happy story. And, as for our heroes, it ends like this.
Yes, we're back in the cabin of our NBI heroes. We see Sunday wearing a very cosy reddish purple jumper, blue leggings. Agent Foyle looking very buff in a big, thick, beefy green jumper. Sunday is saying, gee, it sure was great, Plaz, the way you found the guy who caused all the trouble around here. Agent Foyle says,
Oh, I could have done it better than him if I hadn't been occupied elsewhere.
Watch your mouth, Foyle,
says Woozy, but Plaz cuts him off. We see that Plaz is putting skis on at this point. Plaz saying, hey, calm down, both of you. We've still got a week to go on this vacation, and with everything quiet at last, we can relax and... But he's interrupted by a... Bring! Huh? The phone? Plaz answers the phone in the next panel, saying, hello? Oh, hello there, Chief. Huh? What do you mean we've goofed off long enough? But you've got other agents who can handle that, and but Chief, but... And as Agent Foyle and Woozy and Sunday look on, Sunday says, well, folks, I think we'd better start packing, as Woozy says.
Something tells me we're heading home.
Caption reads,
Fini!
And another caption says,
Next issue on sale during the 3rd week in May.
oh my goodness, I'm exhausted.
How much fun was that?
It was amazing. Obviously, the presence of Ramona and the tragic story for this young woman reminds me of that Freedom Fighters issue we did
Oh, yeah.
a month or so ago with that had a nasty, vicious murder in it. Thankfully, there wasn't a murder in this one.
No hog collars were harmed in the making of this comic.
Yes, the sad, sorry saga of Amelia Roost there.
Mm-hmm.
And the return of Robbie Reed after over 8 years.
I know, it's fantastic. Now, when we did the original Robbie turning into Plastic Man story, we came up with 2 theories, that Plastic Man was an existing hero on the Earth that Robbie was on, or it could have been that Robbie read about Plastic Man in comics growing up and remembered this crime fighter.
Yes.
But this definitely shows that there is a Plastic Man and Robbie on the same Earth.
Yes.
Admittedly, we don't know what Earth this is.
Yes.
But for all intents and purposes, it's probably Earth 1, because Robbie hasn't interacted with any other heroes at this stage.
At this stage being the crucial point there now.
Yes.
Peter and I's long-term plan, once we finish the Earth 2 podcast, is to do a Dial H for Hero podcast, because we enjoyed issue 160 so much when we did it a few years ago. We're still talking about this. We haven't forgotten it.
Yep.
I'm already accumulating bonus content for 8 years in the future. And when we do that podcast, we will continue to cover the adventures of Robbie and the H-Dial, and maybe there we'll settle the answer of which Earth Robbie Reed's adventures took place on. So watch out for that in the future. Of course, we'll tell you when we launch it. That's a nice way of dodging that question.
Yeah.
It's very interesting seeing Robbie back. The idea that having thoughts of romance and such things is what turned him evil is an interesting... an interesting metaphor for the loss of innocence and adolescence and such like.
It was romance really that made him lose his mind, and they lost the H-Dial through that, but it did say that the H-Dial got rusty and that's what turned him evil. Or is that an excuse?
Well, you know what I mean. It was a chain of events. Chain of events.
Yeah, that was really interesting. And also, it does kind of explain Robbie's absence to a certain extent.
I suppose, yeah, comic time and all that, 2 years, 8 years. I mean, Connie Whitmore, Stargirl, has only recently just graduated high school and she's been getting published for a quarter of a century now, so it's,
yeah.
It's interesting, such things. Yes, I know she vanished for years because of the New 52. Don't write in, you know what I mean. Obviously, when we do our Dial H for Hero podcast, we'll do this story again.
Yes.
We'll swap characters.
Oh, that's a great idea. I'll play one Plastic Man, you can play the other.
That'll be fun. I'll get to play evil Plastic Man that time.
Hey.
I mean, I'll be honest, I haven't read any of the other issues of the revived 70s Plaz, so I can't compare it, but I've flicked through a couple. It seems quite, I suppose, representative.
It is Agent Foyle. Yeah, it is interesting that his look is very much like Plaz, to be honest, because he's got those big glasses and he's got a big chin. So.
At first, when I was flicking through this one, doing the prep, there was one page that momentarily confused me. I thought it was Plaz wearing a big hat.
Yes.
Especially at the top of the page when we first see Plaz as the trombone.
Which is hilarious. Although, I'll be honest, I think Plaz could probably be a functioning trombone, actually making the noise.
I agree with you. I think he would probably transform himself into having the right sort of, I don't know how trombones work. Yes. The sound of a trombone there, listeners, is demonstrated by the multi-talented Peter Watson.
I thank you.
If you need a trombone impersonator for your event or party, reasonable rates on request, contact the L2podcast@gmail.com. He will send it on to his agent, Kenny Smith, who will forward it back to him to see if he's available.
It was really interesting that they used heroes that Robbie had previously turned into
Yes.
in this story, as opposed to come up with new ones.
Yes.
It was probably quite nostalgic for people who remembered Robbie if they'd read those stories at the time.
Yeah, I liked that. I thought that was a nice little touch. I can imagine what this would have been like for people who hadn't read Dial H for Hero.
Yeah.
It'd be quite interesting. Would it have sent anyone to the back issue browsers back in the day to see if they could find any?
Might have done.
I used to have practically a full run of Dial H for Hero in House of Mystery many, many years ago, but I sold them many years ago. But after Pete and I did the story in issue 160, I went out and recollected the entire run of Robbie in House of Mystery again, and it's joyous. It really, really is. DC Comics, if you're listening, will have a Dial H for Hero DC Finest, please. We'll have a Plastic Man DC Finest as well that reprints all the 60s issues and these revived ones, and this issue should be in both of them. Okay, you got that,
There you
DC?
go.
Thank you very much.
Well, they did do a showcase black and white edition of the Dial H for Hero stories that I gave you a long time ago.
This is true, but we've moved into the DC Finest era now, of course, haven't we? Have I got that? Have I got your copy of it?
Yes, I gave you it a long time ago. Huh?
Yeah,
When we did the first story, I gave you it over.
right.
There you go. That was whatever year that was.
I hope I've given you it back. I'm looking over there at the pile of DC showcase on top of the bookcase in that corner, and I'm not sure. I think I must have done. Have I still got Alone of the Martian Manhunter one? Is that what it is?
Can't remember about that. Possibly, actually, yeah.
Terrible, listeners.
Anyway.
One of these days I'll actually read something.
That isn't just the stories that we're doing.
Yes. Now, this is the bit where I antagonise Alec if he's listening by saying that the cover is not entirely representative, because at no point do they have a fight outside in the snow under a large moon. So, once again, I will antagonise Alec and mention a certain issue of the Defenders. Peter's holding his head in his hands at this point, listeners.
Alec, don't email us again, please.
Yes,
we know,
please
we
do,
know,
Alec.
we
It
know.
always gives us a chuckle. God bless you, matey. Alec, have we ever discussed Dial H for Hero? Let's have a Dial H for Hero conversation the next time you're in.
Mm-hmm.
It's a game of two halves, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
We've got the Plastic Man and Robbie story, and then this bizarre saga of Amelia, which just gives me this sense that Ramona Fradon and Steve Skeets were just absolutely killing themselves laughing whilst they were doing this. They're clearly having a great time.
Oh, without a doubt.
It is quite poignant in a way,
Uh-huh.
but it's just so ridiculous at the same time.
But that's the thing. Plastic Man's the character that he can be as ridiculous as you like with. And it works. It really does work. When they try and do him serious, it tends to fall apart a wee bit.
Sure.
But the more ridiculous, the better. I mean, look at the 60s ones that we did.
Yeah.
You know, they were just a riot. The original Plastic Man stories are incredible, and Jack Cole's art is phenomenal.
Absolutely.
And it was revolutionary at the time because there was nothing really that looked like it.
Sure.
Yet his personality stayed throughout. It's like he operates in his own level of reality, which is great. And I love Woozy as his put upon sidekick. The fact that Woozy had the four aces and there's a single tear coming down his cheek
Yes.
as Plaz runs out saying, "Come on, Woozy, let's go." And he's like, "Okay, Plaz."
Yes.
And there's this pile of money on the table that he was just about to win.
I know.
Poor Woozy. Oh, shame.
So tragic. I think we said as much at the time. Pete and I would have loved to have done more of the Plastic Man issues. We would have loved to have done more of the Shazam issues to be completely true to a remit of the Golden Age superheroes in the Silver and Bronze Age of comics. But, there's just so many of them that we'd never, and we've got so much else to cover, etc. Maybe if we ever do the Patreon thing that we talk about, if we ever have the time or the inclination or the money.
If we had the time, if we could retire and do this full time, sure.
It'd be great, wouldn't it? We might find a reason to do another Plastic Man story as a flashback, but we're going to do Plazzy's further appearances in Brave and the Bold and DC Comics Presents.
Yes, undoubtedly.
Will we do any more Dial H for Hero stories on the Earth 2 podcast? Probably not, but not to worry. We've got a plan for that for when we do retire and etc. Anything else on this one?
I did love the amazing flashback to Miss Goon's heartbreak story.
Yeah, it came out of nowhere.
Her look is great. She kind of looks a bit like Lilith from Frasier and Cheers. She's got that kind of as you said, stern look, and she's got these penetrating eyes, and you can see that, nope, this is the right way to do things. It's like the strict version of Mary Poppins.
Sure.
You know what I mean? She's fantastic as a character, and I thought that was great. Trying to be tempted by this Terry Thomas-esque cad bounder, and she sticks to her principles and says, "No,
Yes.
you have a duty.
A duty to the spelling bee.
You will be honourable." Yes, it's fantastic. That's just so good. It's just a wonderful, wonderful piece of character work. Just pure fun.
Yes. And although she was, broken-hearted by Robbie not turning up, Amelia, she got a happy ending of sorts. I mean,
Yes.
even though the The caption does say that it's not a happy story. She won the competition.
She did?
She won the national competition. Who's to say that she won't go on to win an international competition, to even maybe become some kind of spokesfigure or trainer of other competitors in hog calling competitions? I mean, I can't imagine that as the end of her story. Maybe when we write our DC comic.
Yes, I think hog calling would be a predominant feature in it.
We'll write the story of when Hal Jordan and Guy Gardner and Jon Stewart were indisposed and she was the next purest and fearless soul to be picked for the Green Lantern Corps.
Perfect.
Ron Mars, if you're listening, you can have that. She could meet Kyle. Yeah, that's great. Kyle is, I don't know, anyway, it's an untold story. It doesn't matter. When we write our DC comic, we'll do it. Right. Shall we move to the contemporary correspondence?
Yes, let's jump to issue 15 and plastic postcards.
Yes, very much so. The first letter goes, Dear Jerry, Plastic Man couldn't be better unless Jack Cole was doing it. If I Kill Me, ... had a nice flowing plot with flowing humour that helped the story along rather than dragging it down. It is hard to make any comments on the contents of a humour comic, so I will turn my attention towards Robbie Reed. Gosh, I always despised the feature, but somehow Dial H for Hero fit in just right in Plastic Man. I could say that the concept worked better for supervillains than superheroes, but I won't. After this issue's success, Robbie Reed should appear at least on an annual basis. Ramona Fradon's art was astounding, and Robert Smith seems to have captured the mood of her pencils in his smooth inks. Loved that cover. Shades of Giordano. And that's from Mark Schneider, Concord, Massachusetts. And of course, well, we disagree with what he said about Dial H for Hero.
Yes.
The editorial response goes like this.
Robbie Reed seems to have made quite a hit with Plaz fans. In fact, he seems to have had a following in exile almost the equal of the Ductile Detectives. An unprecedented amount of mail flowed in, praising or damning our treatment of a character who we thought had been forgotten by all but a few trivia freaks. For instance, the next letter says, Dear Editor, in Plastic Man 12, it was announced that Robbie Reed, star of the Dial H for Hero series, was to guest star in the next issue. I was overjoyed! I had some very good times reading Robbie's adventures in House of Mystery, so naturally, when I saw Plastic Man 13, I was one of the first to grab it. The beginning of If I Kill Me, Will I Die was good. Sending the 4 top NBI agents on a paid vacation was a clever and simple way to get the hero where the action is. Then, at the bottom of page 5, Robbie Reed made his entrance. Things look promising. I wish I'd never turned the page. You completely destroyed the character of Robbie Reed. In 14 short pages, he changed from a brilliant, mature young man with tremendous responsibilities to match his powers to a childish, lovesick, irresponsible boy who did a complete reversal in thinking when he said he enjoyed being a supervillain. Don't get me wrong, Plastic Man was at his best and will probably remain so for many years, but I have fond memories of Giant Boy, Quakemaster, Hypno-Man, Zip-Tide, and all the others. I can only speak for myself, but I won't have those memories tarnished by what was done to Robbie Reed and the Dial H Heroes in Plastic Man 13. And that cry for help is from Chris Tubano from Horsham, Pennsylvania.
Editorial response reads, The distortion you perceived in Robbie's character was a natural change, the change that any character would undergo upon entering the peculiar world of Plastic Man, where a different set of rules apply than in the rest of the comics world. We are sorry to have offended the Robbie Reed fan club members, but at least we did please some readers, which brings us to the next letter. Dear people, Plaz! I'll stop myself from writing it 50 more times with the hope that you've picked up my subtle suggestion that you start calling our hero Plaz, as is traditional, instead of Plaz with a Z, which doesn't even sound right, to some of us at least. You still might get the wrong idea, and assume that since I really have no other complaints about Plaz's book, that I'm just being adamant about little points because of some unnatural need to complain. Not so. I will admit that Plaz is a remarkable, entertaining book, and number 13 was especially fine. I especially like the one good turn deserves another shtick, which is Plaz showcasing Robbie Reed in return for a similar favour years ago. I have that issue, and its effect hasn't diminished. It was my first look at Plaz. Basically, Robbie Reed has always been dull, and that's because everybody took him so seriously. Here was a character with tremendous comic potential, and in his entire House of Mystery run, it almost all remained unused. His return in Plaz was handled beautifully, however. Skeets and Fradon, where were you when Robbie needed you? When King Candy first appeared, I couldn't believe how bad he was. But in Plaz 13, he was brought back by some weirder whim on Skeets' part than I'll ever hope to match, and he was a scream. The whole premise of Dial H for Hero was always so funny. Anyway, Well, let's just say I'm glad that Skeets and Freyden did justice to this old hero once and for all. Which, of course, is exactly what they're doing with Plaz too. Both Skeets and Freyden are exaggerators. Skeets exaggerates the humour. Freyden exaggerates the old art style, but at least they are Jack Cole imitators, not copiers. They've been influenced by him, but they're still very much individualists. I personally find Plaz more entertaining than nostalgic, but that could very well be a good thing. I only wish that Plaz's power of disguise was stressed more. It's one of his most interesting attributes. Yeah, really. No major complaints about Plaz, but I'm not really the type to harp on little things. I consider the misspelling of Plaz's name a major thing, mainly because it bugs the heck out of me to be reading along and then stumble over this unfamiliar name. Next thing you know, Jimmy Olsen will be chasing his pal around the Galaxy building calling, "Soupy! Soupy!" And that slightly grumpy missive, who Pete and I don't really agree with in all cases, is from Bob Rodey, Oak Brook, Illinois.
Haven't had one for Bob in a while. And the editorial response says, "All right already. Take a look at this issue and you'll notice that we've restored the correct spelling of our hero's nickname. Justice has triumphed, right has won over might. And will you be quiet already?" And that's the last letter on the page.
Dial P for Plastic Man once again. Great fun.
Certainly was. We both enjoyed it. Mixed reactions in the letter column, but what did you think, listeners? You can write to us and let us know at theearth2podcast@gmail.com. Make sure you follow us on social media because we're putting up lots of lovely bonus material for this and indeed every episode. On Facebook, Instagram and Blue Sky, we're at the Earth 2 Podcast, and on Twitter, we're in podcast_Earth2, and it's the number 2 for all of our socials.
Wasn't it nice to see Robbie Reed, listeners? Isn't it a shame that he didn't pop up again for quite a while? How sad. But anyway, yes, as Peter says, please do let us know what you think of this story. We really enjoyed it. As I will say at this point, if you're feeling generous, you can consider going to wherever it is you receive your podcast and leaving us a positive review, etc. You could go to our coffee page where you could buy Peter the price of beverage as he enjoys himself editing this episode together. I'm sure he will. Check out the socials this week because as well as the usual cover and panels, I found a few pages of original art and I think I'll stick up the House of Mystery covers that feature the characters that Robbie turned into in this story. I think that'll be fun to see.
Cool.
And all that. Yes, we do our best to keep the socials as interesting as possible, just to give you the extra bonus contextual content, and have a lot of fun doing so. What's happening next week? I can't remember. Only one way to find out.
Just tune in and join us. I've been Peter.
And I've been David. See you soon on
The Earth 2 Podcast.
Transmatter cube activated. Return coordinates set for Earth Prime.
And at the completely...